What's a new release you've been excited to read? A 5-star romantasy read for me. I can't stand that. I know it's fiction and I know it's a book, but I just don't like that. Get this book away from me. Get it away. Get it away from me. It should be criminal to write a book like this. Hi friends and readers. I'm saying this every intro to every reading vlog I ever do now. Another week, another reading vlog. I work full-time, 40 hours in a week, and I try to read 2 books every week. And sometimes there's a theme to what I want to read that week. And this week's theme is that we are reading new releases, and especially new releases that I've been highly anticipating. One of those is a sequel to a 5-star romantasy series I started not too long ago, and the other is a relatively new release that I've been seeing all over everyone's page. The first book, in fact, is a brand new release for May 5th, and today is May 4th, so we will be starting that book tomorrow. Wanted to go ahead and film a little introduction to this week's reading. And the other, the one that I've been seeing all over everyone's page, is right behind me. It's the only book I have on my physical TBR, and I don't think I've been more excited for a reading week than I am for this week. The first book we're gonna grab on Kindle Unlimited, and then we've got the physical book for the second. We're just gonna hop right into the reading because while it's gonna be like 2 seconds for you watching, it's gonna be a day for me to be able to pick up that book. Better me than you, I guess. Talk to you once we've started Fury Bound. All right, it has been... My cat is playing in a cardboard box. It has been a few days and we have started the first book of this reading vlog, which I have been so super excited about. And honestly, I've just had a good week. I was able to score Olivia Rodrigo tickets for her new Unraveled tour in the pre-sale. But you came here for a reading vlog. This video, or this book that I am reading, is book number 2 and what's expected to be a trilogy. And we're gonna start out with describing sort of book number 1 because honestly I can't give much detail about book number 2 without it being a spoiler to the first book, which was Dire Bound by Sable Sorensen. Back when I read Dire Bound, I don't even remember what the video concept was that I read it in. I just know I had a really good week of reading and I rated Dire Bound a 5-star. A 5-star romantasy read for me. Adult romantasy at that. And when I was reading that book, I did a little bit of searching on Sable Sorensen. That's actually a pen name for 2 authors and not just one author's real name. Book 1, Dire Bound, came out in 2025 and now it is May 2026 and we have book 2. So at this rate, we're hoping that book 3 would pop up next year around this time because I really don't want to have to wait years for the completion of this trilogy. That really is the double-edged sword of starting a fantasy romantasy trilogy before it's all out, that you want to be on the up and up. You want to know what's happening as it happens with the new releases, but then you have to wait so long to complete the series and you might need to reread. But it's just really fun to be connected with the people around you. My coworker is also reading this series, so we've been gabbing about it. And Dire Bound is on Kindle Unlimited. I do have a Kindle Unlimited monthly subscription and I was really hoping that book number 2 would also be on Kindle Unlimited. Before we talk about the book that we are reading this week, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a summary, spoiler-free synopsis of what Dire Bound was in case you're thinking about picking up the series. If you liked Fourth Wing, I know people make this comparison, and Trials and Bonding, this is a book and a series you would definitely like. Dire Bound, we follow Marin. Marin is our main character. Marin is going to take part in the bonding trials. She wants to be a part of the war efforts. She wants to join the war front for for a very particular reason, and that she is looking for someone there. And it happens to be that the year that she tries to join in the efforts, they have the bonding trials. The bonding trials are random and they happen unbeknownst to everyone, but the elite are really the only people who want to be a part of the bonding trials, because it's sort of one of those things that the elite have been doing it. They are usually the ones who survive the trials because they prepare their whole lives to be a part of them, and the commoners who just happen to be there when these trials happen don't usually make it out alive. What are the bonding trials? It is where they complete this really big task, and by the end of it, the goal is that you will bond with a massive dire wolf. When they explain these wolves, they explain them to be like the size of horses, which is actually insane. And if you survive the trials and you bond with your dire wolf, you then go through, I think what's 4 months or a few months of more training where you get to solidify that bond with your dire wolf. There are 4 different packs that create one large unity. There is still competition, there's still conflict, there are still ways to not pass the training and not make it out alive, essentially. And it's also one of those things where once you bond with your dire wolf, if you die, your dire wolf dies, and the other way around, I believe. So there are some serious stakes when Meryn tries to be a part of the war efforts and then ends up just getting thrown into bonding trials. From there, Meryn is discovering a lot about herself, her history, her newly bonded dire wolf, her family, and all of the things she did not know until she put herself through the competition to now be a part of a pack and learn what that means for her future. Dire Bound ends exactly where our second book, which let's introduce it now, Fury Bound, starts. And I did not mention that this is the Wolves of Ruin trilogy. That is the name of the trilogy. So we have started Fury Bound. It just came out this past Tuesday, which was the 5th. And over the last few days, we have read some more. We're 44% of the way through Fury Bound, which is chapter 24. And this book is not one point of view. This book is actually dual point of view between Meryn, whose point of view we saw in book 1, and another character. And because we picked up right where book 1 left off, and I did just read book 1 only like a month ago, I didn't feel like I needed to catch up anywhere. I felt like I was right back in the story, and the 5-star feeling picked up immediately. And here's what I'm hoping. There were a lot of things that were left undiscovered from book number 1. Of course, it's a trilogy. We are already working through some of those mysteries, some of those plot points, and I'm really enjoying that so far, learning a little bit more about the history. But I was really yearning, if you know what I mean, if you've read book 1, for a certain connection and relationship, and hoping that we get that in book 2. We haven't explored that relationship so much just yet, and I'm gonna be really sad if we have to wait for book 3 for it, because I just need that. I need that in this book. And then the final thought is that we have actually already had some jaw-dropping moments where my jaw hit the floor. I was not expecting they did that. I was hoping the author wouldn't do that in some scenarios that have already happened, and they did it. I don't know what happens next, and so I just need to keep reading. I do miss, of course, when you have a first book with bonding trials or trials in general and competition, and then you move beyond that in book number 2, you are more exploring politics and plot lines. Part of that you miss if that's what you wanted and liked about book 1. So we'll see where we go from here. I do still have good feelings about it, and I'll update you once I finish Fury Bound. It has been quite a few days later and I have finished Fury Bound. I will say, I think that towards the second half of the book, probably 30% of that, I was listening on Spotify Premium with my audio hours. And then when things were getting interesting and things were getting good and I wasn't doing errands like laundry, cleaning the house, scrapbooking, I would pick it back up again on my Kindle. And I did finish it out on my Kindle and it ended on page 583. So for me, that is a longer book. Usually any books beyond 400 are are longer than what I typically read in a week. I think most books I'm reading these days are between 300 and 400 pages long. With that being said, I am a little sad that I had to purchase this on my Kindle and it wasn't on Kindle Unlimited, but I guess I understand when a book gets published, is it non-traditionally or traditionally? I really don't actually understand it all that much. So I should look into why it starts out on Kindle Unlimited and then why it's not in the middle of a series, because this has happened with a few series I've been reading. If you know, let me know. We're gonna rate Furybound a 4-star. So while it was not a 5-star, I still had a good time. Honestly, the ending was like bam, bam, bam. There were so many twists and so many decisions that the author made for these characters and the politics that I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And in the last 50%, you are getting so much plot, which is why it is quite different than the feeling of the first book, Direbound. I feel like in Direbound, you're focusing on the bonding trials, and then after that, the competition to stay bonded to your wolf, and you are sort of in this comparison zone with all the other packs and how you are doing with your wolf and how you're performing and what that means for your future. And then in this one, we sort of drop all of that. No bonding trials, no competition, and we are sort of in conflict the entire time. And ultimately, you can feel like you sort of have book number 2 so in a trilogy, and you want to not say that book number 2 doesn't stand on its own, and there was conflict and there was some conflict that was resolved, but really a lot of it is left to be discovered in the 3rd book whenever that comes out. So it certainly sets up the trilogy to finish out the series. And one thing about Sable Sorensen is that they are not afraid to yoink people out of this timeline. Now reading books with wolves in it and bonding in it and trials with bonding in them, but I hate that the poor little dire wolves, if their human that they're bonded to dies, then they have to die, and vice versa. I can't stand that. I know it's fiction and I know it's a book, but I just don't like that. And another thing about this is that I would recommend the series if you wanted to read about more with wolves and vampires. I kind of forget that there are vampires per se in this trilogy because they call them siphons and not outright vampires, but they're basically vampires. And then I'll just make 2 more points about this book. First off, you get some new characters in book number 2 that you never saw in book number 1. And with some of them, I really like where their plot's headed. I could see where we're steering there, hoping we explore them a little bit more and their relationships potentially in book number 3. And then one thing that I just never will ever, I don't know, get behind or just get that 5-star feeling from is prefacing. I never have problems with spice in a book, but in particular, it's so hard to wrap my head around spice in a book, especially when you're having relations in the middle of the woods, in the middle of like the biggest conflict of your life. I get it, it's like the world's ending, but still. That's all I've got, a 4-star nonetheless, and I will be picking up the final book in the trilogy, and I'll be excited about it. But what I'm even more excited about right now is picking up our next book. It's a Sunday, and I absolutely cannot wait to start Into the Blue by Emma Brody. I just got off work not that long ago and I wanted to give an update on the next book we're reading this week, and this is Into the Blue by Emma Brody. I picked this book up on Independent Bookstore Day at my local bookstore. I saw it right when I walked in the door and it was basically hitting me in the face, and I had been seeing this everywhere. Every booktuber, every book talker, everyone that I follow on my algorithm has been reading this book and rating it for 5-star. I don't think I've seen someone who didn't like this book. And honestly, at first, when I read the summary of what it was, I didn't think, like, it didn't shout out to me that it would be a crazy comfort 5-star read, but I'm gonna give it a chance because normally when people around me like it, I tend to like it too. I follow these people and listen to their recommendations for a reason most of the times. And I wanted to support the local bookstore that day, so I grabbed this book. It's also honestly gorgeous. The cover is eye-popping, stands out, and I'm happy to have this on my bookshelf if it's a good book or not, just because it's so pretty. Right now, I have just made it to page 91, which is part 2, Into the Blue. So we've made it to the part that is the title. So there are different parts in this story. This is what seems like adult contemporary romance, a little bit of fiction, and in the hardback cover at least, I'm playing a dangerous game to see how long it is. 430 pages. And I don't know much about this author, Emma Brody, but it does say that they are the author of Songs in Ursa Major, winner of the American Book Award. I don't know what that book is, nor have I heard of it, but maybe you have, let me know. And this book came out on April 7th, so it is a relatively new release, definitely in the last year and basically in the last month. And for it only having been out for a month, right now it has 16,000 reviews and a 4.24-star rating on Goodreads. And so far, I think I'm understanding the hype. We are following a character named AJ, and sometimes when people around her are referring to her, her name is AJ, the 2 letters, and they're combining that to say age. The author spells it out as age, A-G-E, and that confuses me, and I'm catching on now. We are following AJ, and AJ has the aspirations to be on SNL, but in part 1, AJ is in high school, I think junior year, going into senior year of high school, and works at a video game shop. Is it a video game shop or is it a TV game? Not TV games. Oh, sorry, not video game. Video rentals. So like movies, TV shows. And in walks another character named Noah. These 2 people could not be more different. Noah comes from a family of stars, people who are in the Hollywood realm, and Noah is never to be expected to walk into this video game. I keep saying video game. Video rental store. But nonetheless, he does, and he strikes up a friendly, bantery relationship with AJ. My cats are just running around driving me insane. And together, with the help of Noah's family, AJ and Noah begin to learn improv, and they start to be acting partners. And in a small town, it seems like AJ is really leaning on Noah as also just a friend. What I will say in the part 1, we are learning a lot about AJ's life and little snippets of Noah's life and how they're so different, but AJ has a really big family, but doesn't necessarily mean that their family's not broken. And AJ also has a lot of siblings. That was confusing at first, learning all the different siblings and their personalities and trying to differentiate them in my head, but now I've got a good grasp on AJ's family, but still more to explore with Noah's family. But oh well, Noah just up and disappears one day. And really, that's where we finish out where I'm at in part 1 going into part 2. We don't know why. Noah just left and basically ghosts AJ. So we're confused because they just formed this really cool relationship over the last few months, getting to be friends, working at the video rental store and learning improv and acting together. They found this niche in each other and their hobbies and their interests, and then bam, gone. So I'm gonna start reading into part 2 and see what happens. At first, I wasn't really seeing the vision, but now get this book away from me. Get it away. Get it away from me. It's one of these where I can tell that I don't want to finish it because I really want to finish it. Makes no sense at all. You have to read it, get halfway through, and then tell me if you want to finish it. It's good. Into the Blue, it's good. It is good. I am over halfway through, you can see, and there are that many pages left. And I don't want to keep reading. I think I know how it ends, and I don't want that in my life. But I do want it, but I don't. I have my phone here. I took some notes because I made some progress reading this on my lunch break today outside, and then I listened to a little bit of the audio on the way home before I ran out of audio hours, and thoughts were brewing. So we did make it into the next part of this book, and it does seem like we are going into different phases of these characters' lives, both AJ and Noah, and they do end up crossing paths yet again after not having talked to each other for 7 years, and then more time goes by, and then more time goes by, and I feel like we're gonna get to the end of their lives and maybe this story will continue to repeat. I don't know. At first, when we moved from part 1 to part 2, I missed their younger story, the part when they were younger and in high school, because we talked a lot about their families and I was missing that family dynamic that AJ has. She has so many siblings and I thought that was something to explore more, and we sort of moved away from that in part 2. We kind of came back to it in part 3, and with all these different parts and all this time separating our two characters, we're really building the chemistry. And the author, I know what you're doing. What I will say about this type of story where the characters are, in my world, they're fictional characters in a book, but in their world, they're also acting and playing characters themselves. And I think it's really cool that the author can make you know these characters for what they are in Into the Blue, and then be able to write them in a way that separates their TV or their acting characters from their actual characters, even though in real life, everything is just characters. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you can see the author writing their personalities in a way that comes through when they are acting. And I think that's just so cool. A concept I'd never be able to tackle. With that being said, a lot of this book is our characters doing improv and acting, and improv can be confusing when you're reading and if you're not locked in and you all of a sudden lock back in and we're in the middle of an improv scene with random characters and horses and mythological creatures or space-time continuum. So you really should be paying attention as you do when you read. And those are just my quick thoughts. I don't want to say any more about this book because I'm going to save my final thoughts in a few sentences when I finish it and see what we're gonna rate this. I am just actually terrified for the ending, so let's just get to it. Here's the quickest wrap up ever on Into the Blue by Emma Brody. I have quite literally just finished this book, but I have 5 minutes left of my lunch break before I need to report back to my desk and work again. And I don't know how I'm going to because this book is a cruel, cruel joke. It should be criminal to write a book like this. With that being said, I am going to rate it a 5 stars. And it's a 5 stars for me. I haven't read a book that was structured like this, made me feel like this book made me feel for some time, and I think that's just so fun. I think it's so fun that everyone out there is reading this book, rating it highly, and that I could read it, pick it up, and enjoy it myself too. I think this book was devastatingly fun to read, and there was some spice. This book is pretty spicy. Keep that in mind if you're wanting to pick it up. And I think that this book, the reason why I'm rating it a 5 stars is because I think it'll sit with me for a long, long while. It was one of those books where I thought that halfway through I might know where this is going, the format and how our characters find themselves in their lives and in this story. You almost feel like it's repetitive and that you know where the story is going to end, especially when there's a certain reveal towards the middle of the book. And even though I felt like I wouldn't want to read that ending, I still kept reading and really enjoyed it and was excited to keep picking it back up each day. And that's how I know it was a 5 star for me. And I would recommend this to anyone, especially if you like romance. I think if you especially are into like acting and improv and SNL and comedy and things of that nature, you would probably even enjoy this even more than I did as someone who doesn't know much about that career or hobby. And it's also a Reese's book club pick. I didn't notice that until now. You've got people on the back giving their advanced praise, Taylor Jenkins Reid. So yeah, just go and pick it up. Make an opinion for yourself if you think this is worth the hype that everyone else is also giving it. And by everyone else, I mean me, because I'm giving it that hype. I am so glad I picked this up. I'm glad to have it on my shelf and would happily lend it out to a friend for a book recommendation. What a great week of reading. We read a 4 star and we had a 5 star, and I think next week I'm gonna let my boyfriend pick what I read for the week, so that should be interesting. Stay tuned. That's all. Bye for now.